The fourth word of Jesus from the cross, Matthew 27, verses 39 to 46. The people passing by the crucifixions continued to shout abuse, shaking their heads in mockery. "Look at you now," they yelled at him. "You said you were going to destroy the temple and rebuild it in 3 days. Well then, if you are the Son of God, save yourself and come down from the cross." The leading priests, the teachers of religious law, and the religious elders also mocked Jesus. "He saved others," they scoffed, "but he can't save himself. So he is the King of Israel, is he? Let him come down from the cross right now, and then we will believe in him." He trusted God, so let God rescue him now if he wants him. For he said, "I am the Son of God." At noon, darkness fell across the whole land until 3 o'clock. At about 3 o'clock, Jesus called out with a loud voice, "Ali, Ali, lema sabachthani." My God, why have you abandoned me?" Some of the bystanders misunderstood and thought he was calling for the prophet Elijah. This is the word of the Lord.
I'm always struck by Jesus' anguished tone here in this fourth word from the cross, especially compared to the other three where he was logical, theological even. But here he's overcome. I can't imagine what kind of suffering he was going through. But I know as bad as suffering is, it's only worse if you're suffering alone. And worst of all would be if you're suffering alone because the person or people who could be by your side have chosen not to be. Jesus was abandoned by his Father in his hour of need. And he was deeply wounded, more emotionally than physically. Let's take a step back, though, and look at the other people who were around. Jesus to them was an unpatriotic traitor, right? Who was threatening their safe, stable society, right? He was a religious heretic. He threatened civil order and maybe even would cause the Romans to come and, if he was too successful, and put down what they perceived to be revolt. Well, they don't ask questions when they send a garrison in, right? I mean, everybody dies, men, women, children. Well, the women are taken for other purposes often. The men are killed. The city is sacked. The people were finally scared of Jesus. If he wasn't going to come in glory and become a king magically, it's like he's too dangerous. And he even threatened small business owners. I mean, of all things, right? He came into the temple courtyard and he tore up the money changing booths. Now, granted, they were doing a little bit of the, extra fees for the service type of thing, but they had families to feed. And then think about it. They were also, speaking of families, he was undermining most of their family values, right? Because he was encouraging people to move away from the religion they were used to, the religion that had provided them identity and comfort for years and years. And he was encouraging them to actively break commandments, particularly the one that was most significant to their national and religious identity of honoring the Sabbath and keeping it holy. Yeah, I think many of them on the road, in the crowd, at the trial, they finally figured out since Palm Sunday that they'd be better off without him. And they'd be happy when this whole Jesus mess was behind them. And Jesus was no longer the headline news front and center of every gossipy conversation. So imagine Jesus on the cross, knowing this is how people felt, that he was sacrificing himself for the very people who were standing against what he was standing for. A more intimate, grace-filled, not legal, law-based relationship with the Father. And they couldn't care less. He understood their anger. And as we learned from the other thief on the cross, he surely forgave it. But it was his Father's silence. It was his feeling of being abandoned. That was a pain that was impossible for him to bear.